How have you been otherwise? Things going well? Oh yeah, how's it been going well? Yeah. It's been fun. And my wife off Korea.
All righty, let's bring this meeting to order, please.
No, I missed her.
Let's bring this meeting to order, please. We're going to go ahead and bring this meeting to order, please. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tom Regan. I'm the chair of the RoyalOak Area Democratic Club. Could I have the other officers of the club? Could you please take a second and introduce yourself? Start with Michael.
Michael Tash,
Mike.
Michael James, secretary.
Yep.
Morning.
If you're here, if you're new here, your first time, or if this is your first time here in a long time, we ordinarily invite you to come up and introduce yourself and tell us why you came. Is there anybody here that's new, first time here in a long time, that would like to introduce themselves and tell us why you came? No pressure, but we'd like to hear from you if you have. Anybody? And if you could all do your social media check-in now, just it helps other people learn about the club. Just check in social media, say you're here at the meeting. And we do have a kid-friendly policy. We've got a kids table back there. And I noticed nobody brought their kids today, but that's fine. But if you ever stuck with the kids on a Saturday morning and you still want to come to the meeting, or you know someone who is not coming because they have kids, tell them, go ahead and bring the kids. They're welcome. We let them be noisy if they have to. You know, the kids will sometimes make a little noise and we just pretend like we didn't hear it, you know, just like when you have kids in church or whatnot. So we are kid friendly. If you know anybody with kids, tell them they're welcome here. Announcements. Michael, why don't you tell us about our night, please?
Good morning. So this November 16th on Thursday, we'll have our bar night at the RoyalOak Brewery at 7 to 9. We'll have to see you. It's a great way to get close to the club members, talk about anything you want. And then in terms of our next board meeting, we're trying to get volunteers to join the board. Again, it's an easy, not huge commitment to say, what do you want to speak? What do we want to do here? Best ideas and practices. So I'll have a sign-in sheet around. And then Deb and I have two people on the ballot. I have for Haley Stevens to get on the ballot. And then Deb, you have. So we'll pass that around. If you want to sign that, it'd be really appreciated. Thank you.
If you're not familiar, we have a club board. So we have officers, the 4 elected officers. Then we have a club board, which is open pretty much to anybody who volunteers. And the board meets separately from the regular meetings, and plans our guest speakers, plans any actions we want to take, and so on. So it helps keep our club strong. One reason why the RoyalOak Democratic Club is recognized around the county as one of the strongest clubs. The big reason is because we have an active board. So if you're interested in getting more involved and having a voice in how things are run, please do join. Sign Michael's sheet, and he'll help keep the club strong in future years. Did you want to announce the OCDP event? Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Liz. I'm here representing the Oakland County Democratic Party today. A little closer like that. So next Sunday between 1 and 3 p.m. at our new offices on 12 Mile in between Greenfield and Southfield Road, we're having what they're calling a rally to try to get all the various clubs in Oakland County together to kick off the campaign for the big election coming up in 2024. So far, we have Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, Dana Nessel, and our very own Valerie McMurrow scheduled to speak, but there'll be more speakers probably there. Free cider and donut, and a whole bunch of people to network with, because we're going to have to do, as you guys know, a whole lot of networking coming up this next year. So should I just apply to chat? I have flyers. If you would like them, I'll just leave them up.
Anybody have any questions about that event? Or you're welcome to enter. Does anybody else have any other announcements? Lisa Mason.
I'd just like to invite you all to an event that's being sponsored by an organization I belong to called Conversations on Race, trying to have important conversations in the community. And we're putting on a program on housing, how to make housing more affordable and accessible. And this will be held on November 20th. That's a Monday night, 6 to 8. It's held at the church of one of the co-founders, Pleasant Grove Baptist Church in Detroit. It's near 6 Mile and I-75. And I'll be sending out a flyer, but I wanted to take this opportunity to personally invite all of you. Our own Becca Cheesem is one of our speakers. And we have some from the Community Housing Network and a person from Bliss, Detroit. So it will be very informative, and I hope you will all make time to come, and I'll get time to send out the flyers soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Does anybody else have any announcements? Mike,
Can I just say
we'll
something?
do treasurer's report next.
Just say something really quickly. We have a really good coffee every meeting in the back room. Nobody knows about it, but this stuff is really good. So give it a try sometime.
Get a cup of coffee at the table back there. And we also have a 50-50 raffle we do every meeting. And then if you don't mind, put on a name tag, just so other people know. Treasurer's does anybody else have any announcements? Sure, go ahead. Introduce yourself first.
Hello, I'm Joe Joseph. My wife and the Peace Lutheran Church are putting on a rally next Saturday to sponsor a rally for the second look. This is for people who are convicted when child. Right now, they can be sentenced to 20 years and they're there for 20 years. What Stephanie Chang has written a law, proposed a law that would allow them to look at it and mandatory look at it after 10 years, to see if they should be, especially the ones that were given life. I mean, no chance, so after 10 years, and there will be, Stephanie Chang will be there, and so will some other people who have families involved in being locked away forever when they were just little kids who convicted. And this is at Peace Lutheran on 13 Mile Road between Greenfield and Southfield. Peace Lutheran's been there forever. I mean, anybody's from the area.
That announcement.
You're opposed to keeping people in jail forever
Yeah.
for crimes they commit as children. You might be interested in that.
Thanks.
Does anybody else have any other announcements?
You can keep this.
And it's probably illegal to say this in Florida, but if you're familiar with American history, our country was founded on two enormous crimes. One crime was kidnapping millions of Africans and forcing them at gun and knife point to work the land for no compensation. But the other crime was the physical annihilation of Native Americans, that made all that enslavement possible. So our guest speaker today is Professor Andrea Knutson from Oakland University. She works on issues of justice for Native Americans here in Michigan. So without further ado, let's hear from Professor Andrea Knutson from Oakland University.
Hi. This is maybe the second time in my life, outside of karaoke, that I've ever held a microphone. So honestly, you can hear me, right? It's a little bit of a weird. See, okay. Okay, there we go. Okay. I just want to thank you, of course, for having me, because this is a huge gesture of allyship. And it's not easy to really understand what it means to be an ally to Native communities. And that's partly or mostly due to the fact that erasure and genocide is such a prevalent part of our history as Americans, and that has seriously created a cratering effect in our consciousnesses and in our social justice goals and in the way we think about community. We just tend not to think about Native Americans because they were put on reservations. And so overcoming this kind of cultural blind spot is a huge lift for non-Native folks. And I would say mostly sort of white or settler descendant folks. I am a settler descendant. I am originally from Minnesota. I've been living and working here on Anishinaabe land at Oakland University for about 16 years, I think. And we are all on Anishinaabe land. We are on the Council of the Three Fires land, the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi people. And so knowing whose land you're on is a good first step. And the reason why Native American folks always sort of say, right, that education is a huge part of being an ally, because they mean it and it's true. I have been sort of, the phrase might be in community with Native American activists for about 7 years. And it has taken nearly a decade for me to feel sort of well enough established in what I understand to be the Native American experience and what I can do as an ally. It's taken quite a few years to actually understand that. So I hope that this is an opportunity to open a discussion and to think further about our relationships to those communities, especially as a political group, which is an interesting sort of entry point. Briefly, I'll tell you maybe a little bit about what it might take to be an ally, and what it takes is a pretty big internal shift. I accidentally became an ally because about 10 years ago, my husband and I decided to become vegans. We became vegans out of ethical reasons to kind of extricate ourselves from big agriculture, fossil fuel dependency, climate change, right? And in that process, I became aware of workshops that were being held at American Indian Health and Family Services in Detroit that were around a topic called food sovereignty. And I realized when I attended my first workshop, which were open to the public, and I just came upon the announcement, that was going to be my entry point into what was a shared goal. And our shared goal that I discovered was that we wanted to think more deeply about, right, the state of our environment and the state of our sort of land justice, or restoring right relations between settler descendant communities and Native communities. And we could kind of do it around food sovereignty or awareness around food. And trust me, food is a great way to gather and to feast and to talk about issues that we share. Because of course, allying with Native communities is a co-liberatory project, essentially. So I attended workshops, and in this shared goal, I was able to make the relationships and friends and to join in powerful and meaningful ways for me, what I saw to be a really important way of reorienting myself in American history and in an American future. We often talk in these circles about an Indigenous future, and an Indigenous future is for everyone. One thing that I want to throw out, which I'm not sure if everybody in this room is ready to hear, but if you're a Native American person, right, you don't perceive white people as being immigrants. If we were as immigrants, and the myth of immigration, or the discourse around immigration, is an extremely powerful political sort of part of our discourse, right? But if you're Native American, you don't see us as immigrants. If we were truly immigrants, we would all be speaking Anishinaabe one, and we would all be adapted to Anishinaabe ways. And so instead, of course, we have to rethink that history from an Indigenous point of view. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing for my students to do. It's a hard thing and to think about, because that idea of immigration is so precious to us. When this activism and being in community with Native folks sort of, they took it. And so over the course of about 2 years, with an ad hoc committee, an intertribal and interdisciplinary ad hoc committee, we spent about 2 years in conversation with tribal leaders across Michigan to write our land acknowledgement. That was in 2021 that Oakland passed the land acknowledgement as a resolution, making it a formal part. On April 1st, 2022, our President Peskovich, announced that to back up our promises made in that land acknowledgement, that OU would designate 4 acres of land on its campus to cultural placemaking. Land is the most precious, the most, maybe the only great thing that the way that this conversation needs to be centered in order to involve Native American people. That's why lands are important. Are important, making spaces for conversation, but designating 4 acres of land on OU is obviously an extremely powerful thing, and it has been for us in the 1.5 years that we've been doing this cultural placemaking. Doing it on land is for us, right? There's nothing more important. land is the most important thing because that was what was taken away. I do actually have, I brought in a few maps of what this project is currently looking like. Native leadership is the next question you always ask. Right? Who is making the decisions? Who are you consulting? Who is leading the way? I am a settler descendant, right? And I'm up here to talk to you about being an ally. But if you want to have a Native American perspective on ways that your club or your activism can kind of be shifted around a little bit, then what you would have to do is invite Native community members. I only have like 12, but if you can share. The first thing we did when this land was designated, of course, we assembled a Native American advisory committee on the campus. The second thing we did was we had Native community members of the intertribal community of Detroit come to our campus, walk the land with us, and literally do the mapping of what this space would be if Native people wanted it a certain way, right? So essentially our project important because that opens up kind of sovereign space on campus, right? These are sovereign tribal nations. And so sovereign sort of decision-making capacity, sort of a sovereignty to this community, to this committee is really important. You just have to commit. You have to commit to listening, and then you have to commit to doing what is in your power to make those plans possible. So you're unsettling everything. And that unsettling of everything from physical space to infrastructure, economic infrastructure, to political infrastructure, to cultural discourse, it is everything. It is unsettling everything. But it's always already co-liberatory. And so the work, right, is about being committed to a different future and figuring out ways together of making that happen. Just a couple more dates. We had a land blessing on June 28th, 2022. And we started to build out that vision. We have a new pawpaw orchard. We've begun the food forest, which is not articulated there, but has come out of current conversations with ethnobotanically appropriate plant life, right? Plant relatives like elderberry, currant, black currant, sumac, fragrant sumac, staghorn sumac, hop tree, spice bush. You all become a lot more sort of literate in the plant world when you align yourself with Native American concerns. We have an outdoor classroom. We have a beautiful sort of circle of boulders and stumps and benches. We have funding that we've already got for restoring biodiversity. We always think about ethnobotanically appropriate plants that we plant. We're currently in conversation with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to do a prairie restoration on the south slope of the heritage site. And at a big event at University of Michigan this past weekend, some tribal elders approached us and asked for a powwow. So Oakland might be having its first powwow next September as well. So it's a lively project with a lot of moving parts that require a great deal of commitment and pretty much the most excellent conversations I can think of having. So I guess I can pause there because I'm not exactly sure how much time I've taken up, and I'm pretty good with. I would welcome questions at this point as well, but in terms of finding out how your club can be an ally, like that is something that requires a kind of education. And, you know, I get asked a lot, like, how do you become an ally? Sitting here is already being an ally, are an ally. So how do you How do you manifest the relationship that you want to have? Like I mentioned before, it has to be personal. Maybe you want to restore biodiversity. Maybe biodiversity is important to you. Well, literally now you can actually come to Oakland's campus and help us plant trees, help us plant food forest. Planting trees is an anti-racist act because restoring biodiversity is about unsettling plantation history, which is, as you mentioned, Tom, earlier, right? About genocide and slavery. The heart of genocide and slavery is the production of monoculture, has been historically and continues to be, right? Your iceberg lettuce comes 1,500 miles from California. It's fossil fuel dependent. It's dependent on labor, on itinerant labor. And so of course, that's why food sovereignty is so important to Native people. Restoring biodiversity is an anti-racist act. It doesn't have to be big gestures. It can be about thinking more deeply about where your food comes from. It can be educating yourself about whose land you're on. It can be attending cultural events. It can be planting biodiversity. It can look like being more aware of fossil fuel problems, right? Holding your politicians accountable, right? Showing up for those social justice issues, raising your hand and saying, well, have you reached out to the Native people in our community, right? Have you invited them in? Are they aware that you care? So there's a lot that can be done. It doesn't look like one thing, and it often is actually just an accumulation of very small things. I will say this, our Native American Heritage Site at Oakland we are the first predominantly white institution of higher ed in the US to actually do this. And so we are doing something unprecedented. And yeah, thanks. Thank you. It's exciting, but it's also like really hard. You have no idea how hard it is to get a crosswalk put in at a Hunter University campus. Tracking down the guy who has the can of paint so that you can make sure that elders from tribal communities can cross the street safely, right? It's from the ground up. But this is really important work that tell Native communities that you're here to listen and you're here to think differently about US history and US futures and what community looks like. Come up to the heritage site. Actually join our listserv. We have a listserv. We make announcements about community events, which run from community feasts, hopefully a powwow next September, planting events, educational opportunities. Come in and join us. Join the conversation. That's how you follow your passion, right? Is you come to that talk on a particular topic, and then you create a conversation around that. There's no mystery here. It's actually quite easy. If anybody is interested in the events coming up at Oakland for Native American Heritage Month, right? We are in Native American Heritage Month. We have some really great ones coming up on environmental justice that will be a discussion about Indigenous knowledges and laws and how we can implement those. We have Diane Wilson, the author of the novel The Seed Keeper, who is coming. We have a screening of Warrior Women, which is a fabulous documentary about Native women's leadership in their communities, especially during the AIM movement, and the ways that these matriarchs and their leadership sort of pass down this matriarchy to their own daughters' lives. So it's a particularly important point about women's leadership. We have a listserv you can join to keep up on events. Come and plant a tree and do an anti-racist act. We have a blog that we keep actually. The heritage site, of course, received its community name from the community. It's Ginanawe Gananane Gadajigiang. It's Anishinaabemowin for all our relations, the place where we all grow. And so being sort of in community, in place is what we focus on there. Beth, who is here and on our Native American, can I say that you're, yes. Beth Wallace is a member of our Native American Advisory Committee and the advisor for our student group.
Explain the significance of the pop over itself and why it was chosen.
Yeah.
For itself.
So, thanks, Beth, for giving me, thank you. I can't not smile about the pawpaw orchard. Has anybody in here ever eaten a pawpaw? Maybe you've gotten it at a farmer's market, right? Maybe a couple people, but why have 98% of you in here never eaten a pawpaw? So it's a native tree fruit to Michigan. It's a native tree to Michigan. And it grows what are called, the fruit is called pawpaw. And it looks like a mango and it tastes like a kind of a cross between a mango and a banana. And it's a tropical fruit. Michigan has a native tropical fruit. And apparently you just crack it open and it's like eating a mango custard. So I've never eaten a pawpaw and I can't wait for our trees to fruit so we can try it. But the reason why you have never eaten a pawpaw is because the pawpaw is the coolest fruit tree ever in existence. I'm a huge fan of the pawpaw because it refuses to be shipped. It has no shelf life. It will not go into your grocery stores because it rots like within a day. And so Kroger and Meijer, big grocery chains, they don't care about it. They don't want it. They can't stock it. They can't make money off of it. It is the most awesome anti-colonial food because it refuses to be colonized. So the only way for you to eat pawpaw is to either grow them yourself, which is really cool, or go to the farmer's market. And so our pawpaw orchard is symbolic for us. And it's if you want to learn your first Ojibwe word, in Ojibwe, the pawpaw is called mishimin. And so there's your first Ojibwe lesson. So mishimin is also really a neat sort of science. It has cool scientific roots because you know that most plant life has Latin roots to its, I don't have any Latin names of plants off the top of my head, but most plant species names are rooted in Latin words, but the pawpaw is actually rooted in an Ojibwe word. So the pawpaw's scientific name is actually something mishimin, asimin. So I love the pawpaw. The pawpaw is my inspiration. Don't be colonized. Yes.
What is the native population of Southeast Michigan?
It's well, I mean, I can't tell you exactly what the number is, but during allotment in the history of America and boarding schools, of course, is something else we can talk about the history of. But Detroit became one of the major hubs for Native communities around Michigan. Michigan has one of the most numbers of federally recognized nations in the US. We have 12.
It was my impression that mostly had one.
And well, that's where the reservations are. But Detroit has one of the largest urban populations of Native Americans, and they're intertribal. So you might have members of sort of tribes that are Eastern. You might have Mohawk. You also have Dakota. You might have more Southern tribes from the Ohio region, like you might have Cree or Kiowa, or anyway, it's very intertribal. Detroit became a major kind of gathering area, and where you have major Native American hubs, you have usually public health centers. So the American Indian Health and Family Services, kind of grows out of that need to provide health services to the urban population of Native folks. But that's another thing to think about, right? Maybe I don't know, ask yourselves, how many sovereign tribes can you name in Michigan? And that's an interesting question because we can all probably tell, we can all probably call up who the historical demographic of Hamtramck is. Who is the historical demographic of, well, there are a few, but right, Detroit. French, English, right? It was also a part of the northern migration of African American communities from the south. What about, let's see, I'm not a Michigander, so sometimes I have like, what about, the Upper Peninsula? Do we know the demographic?
Finish.
It is Finnish, yes. Yes, but there's another community I'm actually blanking on, Hamtramck, oh, Dearborn. Right? Yeah, and we're all nodding because we can all name how many sovereign tribes can you name? And that's probably not very many.
Well, I went to Central, so of course I know Chippewas.
The Chippewa, yeah. This,
Only one of the only two schools in the state, in the country that are still allowed to use Indian names.
so maybe the one you might know is the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians, possibly, right? But there are 11 others. And that's just to kind of give you a sense of the power of erasure, right? That we are really aware of these immigrant communities. We know exactly what the demographics of Michigan are and what neighborhoods are associated with these communities. But when it comes to knowing who the tribal nations are, that is the result of erasure. It's not your fault, right? That ignorance is the result of centuries long cultural efforts at doing that erasure work. Trust me, I teach literature. I teach it to students. I show them, look, this is the fantasy of vanishing Indian, right? This is the fantasy of the antisocial Indian. This is why you don't think there are any more Native people around, because you're not aware of any of them. They're all, right, they've all been successfully erased from our cultural consciousnesses. And that's why you can't name a tribe. But they are vibrant communities, they are contemporary, they share our concerns, they are active, and they're your neighbors. They're in our boardrooms, they are running businesses, they are on faculty, they live next to you. They're everywhere, but culturally, they've been disappeared. So any other questions? Yeah.
You mentioned that it's not.
Because again, like, as Americans, we know about the Bill of Rights. We know about the Declaration of Independence. We think about the Constitution all the time. But have you ever read the treaty that made your own home possible? Right? We are treaty people. And believe it or not, treaties are not entirely or even most importantly about Native rights. Treaties are actually about define what we are. So to be in treaty, which we still are with Native people, we have a binding contract. All of us in this room have a binding contract defined through promises in a treaty to Native nations. We're all sitting here with with contractual language that defines for every one of us in here what it means to be. And in the 1807 Treaty of Detroit, they actually use the word friend. And so friends of the tribe and we live up to. We can all ask ourselves, how can we be treaty people? How do we live up to that promise of 1807, where all these tribal members signed on and said, we would like to be in friendship with you. And this is what that friendship would look like. So you actually go to the meeting now, what that might look like. It's the 1807 Treaty of Detroit. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't. Okay.
I just saw, I just saw the movie Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese about the Osage Indians in Oklahoma. In 1920, they were per capita the richest people in the world. You know why? They sat on oil was beneath the land they owned. So whites in Osage County killed it off. It took over the. But anyway, it's a great. I just want to.
That's true. Thank you.
Elected officials candidates for the meeting. Officials and candidates. Let's hear from Diane Young. First, Diane Young is actually in the 10th congressional district.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm ready to shake and path against John James. So I thank you for coming here, and I love your talk today. I studied anthropology at Open University, so near and dear Dr. James and that, so a long time ago. Yes, John James is very vulnerable. He only won by 1,600 votes. I kind of say we did. From the phone book, one of the largest well-known financial plan firms in the state. I now live in Warren, which is exactly only 14 minutes away from here, so this was great. Thank you. And I've been working really hard to take this district back. As a small business owner, I'm the vice chair of the Warren Sterling Heights Democratic Club. So thanks to all the hard work you guys do. I know how hard it is to run a club. So I just feel like I have the deep roots in both parts of the district because it includes Rochester, Rochester Hills, and then all of southern Macomb County. In addition, I'm a union family. I grew up in a union carpenter home and my husband's a UAW member. So not only do I understand business, I also understand the power of the unions and how transformative they've been to the working class people, and I will fight hard for that. My husband is also an environmental scientist. He got his degree, first degree at Oakland University in the environmental science program there, one of the first kind of evolutions of that. So climate change is a really important issue for me. And I recently won the Warren Beautification Award for native plants because I'm turning my entire yard into native species. And I looked up how to grow a pawpaw and I'm planting a pawpaw. So, because it sounds fabulous. So anyway, just looking for support. I'm here, I'm visiting all the clubs in the area because this is a top 30 national race, right? So it's going to take a village to unseat John James, because all he has to do is go on stocks and money just pulls in. We are going to win it by knocking doors, making phone calls, doing all the hard work, and that. And I was really honored to be endorsed by State Senator Mallory McMorrow, Rosemary Bayer, Chris Gregg, over 40 other leaders, and have already secured several labor union endorsements. So anyway, Diane Young for Congress.com's website, you can sign up to volunteer or see Nico in the back there, campaign guy. Love your help. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane Young. Did anybody get up for the board for next year? Did you pass that around?
No, I gotta pass this.
He's gonna pass that around again. I know some people come in late. We have a club board. Michael's gonna run for chair next year, and I'm pretty sure he's gonna win because no one else is contesting him. But he will need a strong board next year to help him get the job done at the club. And so the board's open to anyone who's a club member who would like to volunteer, if you'd like to voice in organizing our meetings, organizing our events and so on. Please join the board to give Michael a hand next year. Make sure we keep our club strong. Any other elected officials or candidates you'd like to talk right now? I know we had some, Rebecca Cheesy, are you still here? Okay, come on up. Why don't you go next? And well, Monica Hunt's your first city commissioner and running for re-election. Monica Hunt.
First, as a city commissioner, just letting you know that we have, as a city, hired our first sustainability manager. Her name is Angela. She is a Michigan State graduate. So go green. But she's really going to help us implement our environmental sustainability plan that we implemented last year, allow us to be more environmentally friendly, develop, do our development infrastructure. So she's going to be a great add to our city, to working with her. Now turning as a candidate, we're in the home stretch. We have 3 days, 3 active working days left, and there's still a lot that you can do if you're interested in helping us out. Right now, we're getting out the vote charge. We're just dropping literature on people's doors who have not yet returned their absentee ballots. So there's no door knocking unless you want to. Just getting the door hangers. Becca has some. The other side, they're organized and they're out there. So we need to get out there. We need to let people know that, you know, there's some good candidates running. We have great ideas for the city, and we just need to make sure that we keep RoyalOak to the right direction. So any help you can offer, see me and Becca after this meeting, and we can use your help. Any questions? Yeah.
I also just want to say that Amanda, we divided our labor this morning, so she's at the rucksack race this morning, representing the candidates. So she's here in spirit. So just a reminder again, 48 months, she's Herzog. If you could please remember that, obviously for yourselves, but if you could spread the word to your neighbors and friends, make sure people are voting. And you guys were all very aware bunch, but reminder voting going on at the senior center, as well as, of course, election day your precinct location. So please stay in your friends.
recommend us. These are our door flyers. We have them bundled up, ready to go. So please just, we'll be hanging out afterwards. Come see us if you would like to just take a little afternoon stroll for an hour and drop some. Thank you. And just thank you already for everything that you've already done. So many of you have come out, you've knocked doors, you've made phone calls, you give money. Truly appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It seems like we've been up here a lot for a very long time. We feel that from a student.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Okay, so we're at the Sculpture Center today because there's early voting going on at the senior center. Who's voted already? Okay, so do that. When you leave here, go vote. Let's get people, let's get them voting. Monica